bias clay, used to have loads of blackgrass in it. This is 5th year no-till, so this is where we started our sort of trials. It's had a spring wheat in it since then, cover crops at every opportunity, peas last year, wheat the year before that, cover crop in between that and oilseed rape, then spring wheat, then a cover crop, and then back to wheat. So it was last cultivated in autumn 2012. Some fairly disappointing peas, I have to be honest, came off of here. And then it was a decision. It was about the 20th of August. What do we do? It should, 5 weeks, should be drilled with wheat now. We had the mustard on the farm, and I just bought a bit of buckwheat in to put this in. So it's 10 kilos of mustard, and I think about 3 or 4 kilos of buckwheat. So it hasn't really cost us very much to do. Thank goodness we did it in a way with the weather that we've had, and it being sort of wet all the way through kind of September, but big blocky heavy land fields. Hey, so this is yeah, there's one worm channel there. That's a big worm going up and down. So it's still another worm channel there. Oh, there he is. There we go. That's only a baby, that one. So yeah, we just wait and see really. Hopefully we'll get in to drill this coming sort of over the weekend. Probably we'll be in here. This will be going into wheat. So this will be back into Skyfall wheat. There's 2 different sorts of worms in here. Those are the sort of the top sort of scavengers, and there's another one in there. An E6, that's the word, isn't it? I can never remember. The horizontal worms, aren't they? They're the horizontal ones, yeah, and then these other ones are the up and down ones. They're the big draining boys, really. Yeah, so it's heavy old clay, really.
How's it changed in the way it handles from before we started? Can you feel it?
Yeah, you can definitely feel it. We did actually put some slug pellets on here when we planted this, because when we harvested the peas, we were up here in one night, and the header was just literally alive with slugs, just millions of them. So we did pellet it beforehand. So how has it sort of changed? Workability, ease of pulling the drill through. In terms of sort of tilth creation, just very easier working soil, really. The other thing that's really interesting is when we get rain, the drains run very quickly, but they run clear. Yep. And when we were in the transition period, we had this block and we had a block the other side of the railway, and we would get a rainfall event when the drains were running, so at field capacity. Within about 6 hours these drains would be running, and they'd be running clear. About 24 hours those ones would be running, and they'd be running dirty. So in terms of sort of water infiltration, the water is going through here, but it's not taking the silt particles with it, because they're all being held in the soil.
And is there hope for the metaldehyde there?
You'd have hoped so, if we're using it. So we'll be using ferric phosphate down here now. So we use a bit of metaldehyde to start with when things are dry, and then we'll switch over to ferric phosphate now we've had sort of rain around to do the slug control. And this crop we will spray off after we've planted. By the time the drill's been over it and the rolls have been over it, we will roll this because of the slugs, I think. It'll disappear to nothing. It's sort of quite a weak, watery sort of cover crop at the moment. So that'll probably kill most of it off. But in terms of blackgrass, I didn't think I saw any from here to there. In the past, you would have been tripping over it sort of by now. So a bit of a dilemma this year as to what we do with herbicides. In terms of pre-em herbicides, I think we need to put something on, but it's a case of what we put on, how much we spend.
Well, there are still some peas left over, aren't there?
Yes, some volunteer peas.
I mean, how far could you just use volunteers as your cover crop? I mean, certainly after rape you get huge quantities of volunteers.
Yes, you do.
And not, and just use that. I mean, you get volunteers
Yes, you do. It depends what you're trying to achieve in a way. 2 years ago, up on the hill, we harvested the oilseed rape very late. So we just relied on the volunteers as the cover crop, and the slugs absolutely murdered the rape, and then they murdered the wheat afterwards. Whereas it was this block here, and we were thinking heavy land, we planted a cover crop, so we had loads of rape volunteers, loads of cover crop, and the wheat was hardly touched. Absolutely amazing. So yes, it's another cost both in seed and in terms of operation at a busy time of year. But I think it's something that we need to sort of deploy across the whole field. If we have half the field of good cover crop, either volunteers or something you plant, and the other half doesn't come very well, you've sort of got that legacy then going through into the spring crop. So half the field has had good drainage and has got feeding of the biology and all that sort of stuff, and the other bit hasn't. That will have an impact on sort of the following crops going forward.
And the volunteers are very unpredictable.
They are very unpredictable. Yeah, absolutely. So
Do you have any volunteer, any medical on brome?
brome is becoming a bit more of a problem. Barren brome it is.
Yeah. That's because it's dry. The land is drying out.
Is that what it is?
I don't know. It's just that
I think.
grass.
Yeah, blackgrass is definitely becoming less, and yeah, brome is becoming more. Wild oats we're not seeing so many of.
Right.
But I think that's
The soil's not being disturbed so much.
yeah, and we're also leaving them all on the surface. So that the theory is that if they're on the surface, they're not going to germinate, or if they do, they're relatively easy to control. Chemicals are in that sort of concentrated bit. They're not rooting right down here. You've got some natural predators around, the weather, the elements, all help.
60% of seed on the surface are lost through predators anyway. Something like that. I don't know how anyone worked that out.
Yeah, so it's got a bit more to go, this field, but it's definitely getting there. Definitely getting there.